Hello, everybody. It's James, and this is the CEO Jimbo show or playlist. I'm kind of going through an identity crisis a little bit on this show title. I think I may change it to like Pilot Jimbo or something like that. I'm a qualified pilot, a licensed pilot. I haven't flown a plane since 2001. I have a ATP multi-engine land, commercial single-engine land, and commercial glider. Former glider flight instructor. Anyway, another one on MH370. I have been just really enthralled or engrossed in this just because I'm trying to make sense of it and trying to kind of come with terms with the norm or the decision on it. It sounds like the authorities were basically saying that it's that the captain did it as a murder suicide, and there's that's the absolute answer, and there's no refuting it and so on. I think that the Malaysia government kind of later kind of came up with a results of inconclusive and kind of letting the pilot off the hook, saying that they didn't think that he did it. They don't have any evidence that he did it, but there's no evidence to suggest that anything but a inconclusive decision could occur. And they're basically saying, unless somebody like me comes up with something new, they're not going to do any more searching themselves. Anyway, I'm kind of working on this. I may even write a book on this. I kind of started to work on sort of the table of contents of one today. And I'm trying to sort of like all but formulate a thesis on this, like a doctoral thesis. Not that I'm really trying to get, a official, bona fide PhD in MH370 or something. Anyway, here we go. This is always kind of extemporaneous. And I have this book out. I had this book out the last two times at least, and I never showed it to you. This is one I got from the library and is going to be due pretty soon. The Smithsonian Ocean, Our World, Our Water, Our World, Deborah Kramer. And towards the back of the book, there's a thing on Indian Ocean and so forth. What I have in mind for tonight on this is kind of really talking about a lot of area. This occurrence, Malaysia is up here, and the official story is that the plane kind of went up here, was going to go to China, but it ended up making this turn kind of out over here, and then it ended up going way down here towards Perth, Australia, and this is kind of where they've been searching for it. I saw, been watching lots of videos, from old ones that were way back when this happened to ones that are fairly recent. There was an old one like 9 years ago. Captain Sullenberger had his 2 cents on it, and it sounds like he was talking before any parts were discovered, and basically said that it was kind of like maybe one of two things: that the flight crew either lost radio contact because the radios were not working, or were just too busy to to use the radios. So I'll leave it at that. He said other stuff too, but that's kind of what I remember. Let's see, parts were found over here. There was kind of like maybe like a week afterwards or so, there was like search flights that were like searching this area, and they thought that they saw two parts like down here somewhere in the water. One was like rectangular, and the other one was like circular or so on. And then they sent out boats to see if they could find these things, and they never did find them. What I find odd about it is that they're basically saying, well, because the parts were here, search here, in addition to the Inmarsat saying that it was down here, you know. But the funny thing about this is that I saw either the same video or another video that was talking about the currents in this area. And the currents are known to travel like about maybe 15 knots to maybe 40 knots or something like that. Probably more like about 20 knots. And they really move and so on. And so if the plane crashed and then they searched this area by plane like a week later, it doesn't make any sense. Those parts wouldn't still be there if these currents moved that rate. They would kind of go, way down here somewhere. And then, if they found them by air, they would think the plane was over here. So it makes sense to me that, if the plane like ended up, ditching in the water here or here or here somewhere, and they got in these currents going at 20 knots, a week later, they're now here and they get seen by air, and then, they're thinking, well, maybe the plane is underneath the parts. So that's one of the things that I'm sort of like scratching my head over and wondering about. But it seems logical to me that the parts could have traveled these currents and so on. There's another. This page shows currents down here, and I'm trying to figure all this out. Here they are. Unfortunately, their maps have Indian Ocean here and Indian Ocean here, so you can't even, you have to kind of like piece it together a little bit and so on. But there's like surface currents and underwater currents and things like that. And so these tend to go down here. These were like more underwater currents. Kind of go this way and so on. But it seems plausible that, it seems like the higher that the farther north the plane crashed, the more likely the plane parts would be to kind of like to curve back around up to Madagascar here. They come around here and come around here. If like the plane crashed here and those parts started to go here, they actually would come up this way into the Atlantic. The currents kind of have it coming up here. And, it seems like if the plane crashed where they said it would crash, then there should be plane parts like in Rio de Janeiro or somewhere and so on. So anyway, enough on that. Hopefully you get kind of where my point on my argument is that the plane kind of crashed maybe farther north up in the thing here. This is land here. I should color these in brown here for landmass here. Here's Kuala Lumpur right here. And anyway, you've seen this map if you watched any of my other videos. The only thing new on it is I wrote this. I just, despite the fact this is sort of a scratch map, I've just kind of got to the point where I don't want to like mark on it and wreck it up and so on. So I'm sort of not bored with it enough to sort of like color it in and add more detail to it. I don't even remember the 310. That's a date. The husband and the lady that made the sailboat voyage came in on 310. The plane went missing on 38, so it was actually just 2 days later that they came into Phuket and at some point notified the authorities. I read some stuff about that. There's actually quite a bit about the lady's comments and so on, and she and her husband were sort of fighting. And I kind of wondered about that because she was night watch and he was like day watch, so they were hardly even seeing each other and so forth. That seems like that's kind of recipe for kind of not the greatest relationship and so on. And she was saying that her relationship was not doing good. And anyway, she was kind of sorry that she didn't report the plane earlier. And I'm trying to figure out who, like she reported it, and then the authorities said that their radar was right over that area, and then she thought that she was in the right place at the right time to see it, because they've confirmed that it's that area or something like that, is kind of what I gather. So I'm not quite sure what came first. She reported it to the authorities, or the authorities reported that their radar had this occurrence right in their area. And nonetheless, it doesn't really matter that much. Here, to kind of cut to the chase a little bit and some excitement, one thing that she said that's really stuck with me is that her report was that it was at night, and there were like two other airplanes that were going the opposite way. This plane was going south, and there were two planes going north at a higher altitude. So that she thought that it might have been a comet, a shooting star because of the fire. But she clearly kind of says that she saw that underneath the two planes with nav lights, which implies that the lower plane that was on with the fire didn't have any didn't have nav lights. She also said that the plane looked elongated. And I've been thinking about that for a long time now. And this is just a strip of paper and kind of suggesting kind of the right side of the aircraft here and so on. What if the right side of the aircraft peeled up and was hanging back like this? Does that fit her description? An elongated aircraft. There's more on this. This plot thickens a little bit here in a minute. Let me kind of move to my next thing, a new development. And unfortunately, I didn't get into drawing this week. I just, maybe it's kind of a break for you all. Instead of you seeing my drawings, you'll see, this isn't the right page. The more quotes, and I've kind of like showed you my quotes, but I haven't like elaborated on them. Here we go. But, and we're at 13 minutes, so I've got to kind of sum up here, kind of end with this and sum it up. But where are we going with this? There's an airline pilot that, this is a new discovery for me. It's kind of the Indiana airline pilot. He was turned into a accident investigator, and I don't know if he's working for somebody or if he's just doing that for himself. But he suggests that the aircraft was blown up either by bomb or missile, I think, and that it crashed quite near Vietnam. This, back to my map here. Here's Kuala Lumpur. This is land right here. This is water. This is like Vietnam right here. And that it basically kind of went up here to Igari intersection, past it, and he suggests that somehow he knows that the aircraft made a radio communication to the Ho Chi Minh City, saying something about the airplane is disintegrating and he needs to land. Landing sought, or something. I think it was aircraft disintegrating, landing sought was his last communication, and so on. And then in addition, there's a journalist lady that has written a book on this subject that insists that the aircraft crashed in this area, I think also, and that it was a missile. I think she suggests that it's the U.S. government that did it, and so on. And then there's one other. There's a lady. Who is this? A lady researcher that worked for a satellite company that's now out of business that claims that she saw a video on her. She was like analyzing video after hearing the news of this, like just 2 or 3 days afterwards, if even that, kind of searching the waters from her satellite thing. And she says that she found something that looked like the nose of the aircraft and the fuselage and the tail. And there's pictures of that on the internet, and it looks almost like the nose of the plane is like sticking straight up in the water. There's kind of this image of it. And the and then there's sort of the side of the plane like this in the water. But you can also see kind of like maybe vertical fin, and this is like sort of like, kind of like that in the water or something like that. That plus the nose looking up. I just didn't have time to make a better picture for you. Maybe next time, and so on. But all this excitement kind of like right in the area of like the shores of Vietnam. I don't know exactly, which beach, area or so on, but and this is way out of scale because, basically come over the water here, you pass Igari, and then there's another intersection, then quite a bit of water to cross, and then you finally get up into Vietnam land mass and so on. I have Igari sort of really in the wrong place. It should be kind of way down closer to this shore over here. And there's the other one. Somebody says that there's sort of concrete evidence that the plane did make it past this one, which is contrary to the official narrative. Anyway, it's 18 minutes on this. I really got to sum it up and go. I've had trouble if they get more than about 20 minutes. They get hard to kind of upload and things like that. There's so much more. But anyway, I've been doing these like once every 2 weeks, whether I post them exactly, right on time or not. I've been pretty much, shooting these like on Monday night, and then this following Monday night, I do another one. Please like and subscribe and thumbs up and tell all your friends and all that type of stuff, and so on. It's actually sort of like 1 in 4. I'm doing 2 videos a week, and there's 4 in the rotation, so you can kind of figure out that because the months are kind of different in length. It's probably not exactly every 2 weeks. It may be a little longer, a little less. Anyway, have a good one. See y'all later. Cheers. Happy flying, or whatever you do. So long.